It is the Mosley Show, and thank you, CNB, Central National Bank, Ascension Providence, and a host of others. And we'll be talking about them throughout the program today. But thank you to Scotty Swingler. Lizzie's on hand, too, back in the mothership as we get ready for another show. And so much to get to, so much to cover. Scotty, I'm sad, and I'm glad I didn't have any emotional investment. I think you remember my initial response to what is this LeBron decision? It just felt sort of fabricated and nothing. I mean, as only LeBron could do, though, it sent the ticket sales soaring for what was going to happen, because I think that people thought he might say this is his final year, and no one would enjoy like a retirement tour as much as LeBron. You know how some players just like, nah, I don't want that. Get me on out of here. No one would love it more than LeBron. So his announcement, his cryptic tweet yesterday, basically hinting that today at noon would be, I guess that was noon Eastern, I don't know, but that today was going to be the big decision, made everybody think back to 15 years ago when he made the decision to go to the Heat. It was a huge moment. Young Scotty was probably in like junior high or high school.
Mosley. I want you to guess where I was and what I was doing when LeBron made the decision the first time. We've joked about things like this, so I think you'll have an indication. As a hint, I believe he did that announcement in June.
Let's see. Young Scotty. What year would this have been? 15 years ago. So you're 33 now.
10, yeah, probably 2010.
This before you arrive on the Baylor campus?
I was in high school, yes.
Okay. Summer of, I don't know, like youth camp or something? What would you have been doing?
Very close. Very close. I was on a basketball mission trip.
Okay.
In a hotel room with some other high school guys, and we watched the decision. Yeah.
And where were y'all doing mission work?
Along the border, southern border.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Ton of fun, man, actually. It's old Mark Weibel, who's one of the chaplains for the Baylor basketball team, does.
Yeah.
They not only, go do the mission work, but they have built basketball courts all over the world now, and they train semi-professional teams, and most of it's doing camps for kids, which is what we were doing, was teaching kids basketball. But he takes basketball over the world with that stuff, man. It's called Hoops for Hope. They actually sponsored, sorry for the tangent, they actually sponsored some of Rogue Media's high school basketball coverage last year. We did some work with Hoops for Hope.
Yeah, and by the way, last night I was doing some high school. That's what I love about Rogue, man. We're all over the place. Sometimes maybe too much. We take on a lot, right? And so last night there was a big Class 6A high school called Lake Highlands, and my daughter went there. And I thought once she graduated, I would retire from doing the Lake Highlands podcast. I was told otherwise, and the people were very upset when I talked about walking away from the Boneyard podcast. But anyway, Scotty, and by the way, there's Cherry Johnson, Sigmund and James, one of the great law firms in all of Central Texas. We're so thankful. The Johnson of that group just got a big award recently, top 10 lawyer in the country when it comes to these trucking incidents or accidents. And Scott James, who I've known forever, he's a man, before Scotty, they had the swamp soup, which is what they have at the Brazos Landing. Scott was a few years behind me at Baylor, but I brought him into Fiji back in the day. And Scott and I would go down to Buzzard Billy's, and we would eat the beer cheese soup. And man, that was our favorite soup. That was at that time in my life, that was as close as I would come to any beer. And most of my life, I should say, in case my parents are watching. No, but that's true. That's the beer. That's about as close as especially undergraduate, as I came to any of that kind of thing, is the beer cheese soup. And man, was that stuff great. All right. Scotty, we were on LeBron. There was some excitement over what this would be. What was LeBron going to announce? We now know, and they didn't even wait for noon. Like 90 minutes before, this company puts out the announcement, and it's a kind of, well, it's Scotty. Let's show them what they've won. Let's show them what all this hysteria and excitement was about. And oh, by the way, Scotty, where I didn't finish, those tickets for what could have been potentially LeBron's final game went from, when he said this, it went from like $86 a ticket to $500 or $600 a ticket. Like immediately, everybody wanted in there because they're like, oh my gosh, he's going to make this announcement. People were speculating that it could be retirement, and he didn't do it. Scotty, let's show our folks exactly what this was all about, the LeBron announcement. And Scotty, I think it'll send folks just racing to the liquor store once they see this.
Well, everyone's on pins and needles across the country. You ready to go, LeBron? Where's the powder?
Left it at home.
LeBron, fans want to know where you're taking your talents this year. What's your decision?
In this fall, man, this is tough. In this fall, I'm gonna be taking my talents to Hennessy VSOP.
VSOP? And this was the conclusion you woke up with this morning?
That was the conclusion I woke up with this morning.
Why?
I feel like it's gonna give me the best opportunity to win more at hosting. And not only that, win at signature cocktails, win at having a good time, win at impressing guests, win at making memories, win at making it look easy, win at leaving people wanting more.
LeBron, appreciate it.
I like my decision.
Oh, Scotty.
Matt, I got. I need to own it. I already owned it once on the show that you were right and I was wrong about Baylor's history at tight end. Now I've got to admit to you, I got. I could not sleep, in fact, last night. I was so anxious that my favorite basketball player since I was like 10 years old was going to hang it up, 10 or 11, whenever he entered the NBA. And turns out that, nope, it was just a Hennessy ad. So all of that for naught. Well played, LeBron. Well played. Very effective marketing there, I would think.
Do we know that actor that's playing the role of the interviewer? He looks.
I do not know who it is. I
can
Google it.
All right. I was trying to think to myself, what has he been in? Why might I know him? But yes, it was a triple fake by LeBron, and it is Hennessy. Scotty, are the folks there in China Spring and in Central Texas, have they ever been tempted to go get them a bottle of Hennessy? And be honest with me, and you generally are, I believe with me. Have you ever had a sip of Hennessy in your entire life?
Not that I recall. I don't believe so. It is not typically the spirit of choice in the places where I tend to drink such things.
Dichotomy's not. They got a lot of nice bottles back there. Surely they have some.
Oh, but see, if I'm gonna go sit at Dichotomy, or more recently,
Latte.
Now that I work there, I'll go sit at Red Herring's. Got a nice bar there. It's an old fashioned, Matt. It's just real simple.
Yeah.
Just tried and true, classic.
Let me tell you, my first run-in with Hennessy, it was they were the main sponsors for this horrible fight card in Dallas. And I can't remember if it was at Fair Park or if it was Mesquite Rodeo. I do remember the lighting being horrible and like going for like some brisket nachos, which I'm sure were great at either venue. I'm sure they were just wonderful. And stepping down to what I thought was just a normal step to get back onto the rodeo floor or the fairground floor, to get back. We had ringside seats. And Dallas doesn't have a lot of fights. So the ones they do, you want to go to. It's kind of a fun thing to go do. And I fell. Instead of it being a normal step, it was about a 5-foot drop, and because the lighting was so bad at this venue, and I stepped off, and there was no floor. Right there was and I just fell on my face. And my buddy, I remember, rushed to my aid, and I had brisket nachos all over my glasses. It was a bad scene, but they had the ring, the ring girls at these fights. After each round, of course, they'll have a scantily clad female, and this still happens, I believe, at the Vegas fights, come through holding one of these, and you can't really see me, but they're holding up their card, right, for what round it's going to be next. And it was the Hennessy girls. And so at some point, given my broadcasting stature at the time, we were called upon to go up to the Hennessy VIP lounge. And so I thought, well, we should go up there and see what's going on. And it was about what you think it would be at one of these fights. It was 2 leather couches in the middle of just this concrete, like where they show the swine, like the swine pavilion, or maybe it was where the bulls are kept. And it's Mosley's just rolling big time. And I remember them saying, we're giving out free shots of, Hennessy. And I said, my buddy will try it. Okay. So I sold my buddy, who shall remain nameless. Okay. Big Church of Christ guy. I
dated one of those one time. I know how that goes.
He did go ahead and try out some Hennessy, and but that was quite a night. A fight card at like Fair Park with the Hennessy girls, and that is kind of how the whole thing went down. So, way to go, LeBron! Way to fake out all of America. Now let's move on, Scotty, to our next controversy, and this involved Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones had to respond to this today on his radio show, which he, about a year ago, he was so mad that he was threatening to get these radio guys fired. Now he seems to be in a better mood. Cowboys coming off a win. Pass rush looked a lot better. He's open to possibly trading, which we'll hear from him on that. But all the stuff, and Scotty, I don't know if you have footage of, I don't know if we can show that, can we? Are we allowed to show footage? Okay, I guess we can. All right, this is YouTube. We can do anything we want. Now, Scotty, it seems to me that what he's doing is very obvious. He flips somebody off, and then he points right at him. Now, before that, there's a nice thumbs up to the crowd, but then he clearly gives the middle finger. He okay, I'm not going to do it, but I mean, again, and it seemed good-natured. It seemed kind of fun, but he obviously displayed an obscene gesture, the middle finger. Now, I've looked this up. Scotty, I didn't have to look too far. I don't want to act like it was incredible research on my part, but Bud Adams, back in the day, the former owner of the Oilers and the Titans, flipped off the Bills fans, fined $250,000. David Tepper, who once hired Matt Rule to be his head coach for the Panthers, he poured drinks. He was mad at some fans when he was in his suite, and he poured drinks on them, fined $300,000. I mean, Jerry deserves a big fine. He can't be flipping people off. But he was asked on his radio show today what that was all about. And Scotty, here is his response.
you gave the Jet fans the finger, were you just telling them how many wins they're going to have this year, or was that like their IQ?
That was unfortunate that was a kind of a exchange with our fans out in front of us. There was a swarm of Cowboy fans out in front, not Jet fans, Cowboy fans. And the entire stadium was brimming with the enthusiasm of Cowboys, and certainly late in the game. And that was inadvertent on my part because that was right after we'd made our last touchdown. And we were all excited about. There wasn't any antagonistic issue or anything like that. I just put up the wrong show on the hand, but that was inadvertently done. And I'm not kidding. It was, if you want to call it accidental, you can call it accidental, but it got straightened around pretty quick. I've had a chance to look at it. It got straightened around pretty quick, but the intention was thumbs up. And then basically pointing at our fans because everybody was jumping up and down excited.
Everybody's jumping up, down, excited. And he meant to just kind of do a thumbs up. The inadvertent middle finger. Scotty, how many times has this happened to you? You're somewhere, you're just wanting to celebrate with a crowd. You're maybe at a Baylor event. Maybe it was a church function.
At a church function,
area. And you're just you're caught up in the moment, and you just want to, maybe you're at a youth camp, and man, you guys are having such a great time, and you mean to throw the thumbs up, or but then the other thing comes out. Then the middle finger comes out. It's hard to buy, but you do have an age factor.
I was going to say, Matt, Jerry's
old man. Yeah.
Jerry's a little older, and sometimes when you get to be that age and you intend for something to come out and it doesn't quite come out the way you want, Jerry should maybe consult a doctor. There might be some medication he can take to make sure his middle finger doesn't accidentally or involuntary slip out again when he intends to do a thumbs up. Matt, this is such a joke. He even the best part of that clip we just read is when he goes, well, and I did the wrong finger came out, but he starts to say the F word. And did you see the little short captures that? It literally goes, I did the and there's an F with a dash on the shore.
It's just like there's certain people you could kind of buy it from and go, okay, maybe he screwed up or he is old or whatever. But like a guy that loves a good dirty joke, that just when he was asked about, is a tie like kissing your sister? You remember his response to that was like very off color and weird and cringy. And of course, I had to be right there. I've gotten a lot of feedback on that, Scotty. My face when he made that crude joke about, well, what does that taste like or something. He was saying that to Mike Silver, but I happened to be standing right there, and I just kind of did I'm glad though, honestly, that I didn't laugh. Like I think I had the proper response. Like on something that gross and cringy. Like, you don't want to be the over laugher laughing at the dirty old man's joke. I feel like I'm okay, even though I looked kind of weird doing it. I feel okay about my response to his weird joke about a tie is like kissing your sister. To which, and again, I've known Mike Silver forever, but I like sometimes for our audience peeling back the curtain a little bit on some of those conversations when we're in there tight to Jerry, and like, at the very end of that conversation, I see Mike Silver kind of give him a hug, and he's going to say something to him. Mike Silver's a longtime Sports Illustrated writer, and then he was with the NFL Network, and he's fairly well known. And Scotty, he says something to him like, Jerry, on this game, this was after that tie against the Packers. He's like, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to take care of you. And I'm thinking, first of all, do you think Jerry even knows if Mike Silver is writing a column or if he's doing TV or has any clue what Mike Silver's talking about? Like, I I promise you, you will not catch me ever, Scotty, with Mac Rhodes or Linda Livingstone or Dave Aranda, even as that I get along with all those people really well. You will never hear me lean in and go, I'm going to take care of you on this radio broadcast. I'm going to take care. I mean, that's an odd way to approach it. But one of the reasons that Mike Silver and Jeff Pearlman used to be like this too. One of the reasons they sometimes got great stuff, Pearlman especially, because he'd go out with athletes and they would drink wine and start drinking and stuff. And these athletes would say all this crazy stuff. That's how John Rocker ended up saying all that horrible stuff. The former Braves closer. Maybe he also closed for the Mets or the Yankees. But John Rocker said all that awful stuff, and it got into Sports Illustrated, and you're like, how do they know not to, how did they say this stuff to a writer? Well, a writer may have been, let's just say, Scotty, if they were at the Red Herring, they would not have been saying, bring us another water, bring us another coffee. So again, that is kind of how some of my associates used to do things. Now, have I ever been with an athlete or a coach or even Jerry when they're drinking? The answer is yes, but there was some sort of decorum. One night I was with Jerry at the Sky Bar, and it wasn't just the two of us, it was a media party, but somehow I got locked into Jerry, and for about an hour we were like he was like right there in my face, and he just kept going and going and going. But I also kind of inherently knew, while it was good to hear some of this information at the Sky Bar as Jerry's having whatever, Johnny Walker Blue or whatever he was drinking that night. And I remember clearly thinking, I don't want anything in my system because I may get some really good stuff, and I don't want to forget about any of this. And we talked for an hour, but I knew, Scotty, that I couldn't race back and like try to write a bunch of stuff. I knew that I needed to keep it in the back of my mind for either background or I could ask about it moving forward. Now, there was alcohol involved in one of the craziest nights that came up in that documentary Scotty, I don't know if you ever watched all those episodes on Netflix. The Cowboys documentary was really good, but the famous quote from Jerry Jones, and that was all alcohol fueled, was that night that basically Jerry told a group of reporters, and I say group, there were about three of them, he said 500 coaches. There are 500 coaches that could win a Super Bowl with that roster. And that was him ripping on Jimmy. And what had led to that was Jerry had gone by, seen all the Cowboys assistant coaches, and was going to do a toast, and Jimmy scoffed at him and didn't do the toast. And it embarrassed Jerry, and that's how things sort of escalated. And that, of course, eventually led to the parting of ways. And Jerry paid Jimmy somewhere in the neighborhood of $3 million, when that was a lot of money, still is to a lot of us, but back when that was a lot of NFL type money, to just go away, just to leave. And that was the settlement. And that was the end of the Cowboys. All right. Now, Scotty, since we're on the Cowboys and since we're on Jerry, do we also have the other one where Jerry, I think we do. This is Jerry. This is good football stuff, because this is going to excite Cowboys fans. Even though Scotty came on and basically yesterday, after I'm trying to kind of celebrate with the Cowboys fans, I wasn't celebrating, but I was kind of at least admitting that they played really well against the Jets. There were very good signs, and maybe they could get on a little run. Scotty wanted no part in it. Scotty brought up the rest of the schedule, talked about how they would lose a ton of games. And so which is fine. I like differing minds. I like a different opinion. I absolutely love that. But Jerry was asked about, with the trade deadline coming up and the way the team's playing, would he consider making a trade.
Jerry, last one for you here. In regards to trades, you've typically said that you wait for the phone to ring instead of picking it up and making the call. But when you see some of these encouraging signs from your team and the way they perform out there, does it tempt you at all to be the one picking up the phone to go get another piece?
Well, I think that's constant. I think that old sign out, open for business, is there. And I think that we are continually looking. As we go on into this season, teams will position themselves where they basically feel like less of a contender because of the losses or because of circumstance on their team. That's when you'll see sometimes some better players that are available because the team has decided to start redoing some things on their salary cap structure, for instance. There's opportunity there. And that's when you start getting those calls. And yes, we're in a position to improve our team if we get an opportunity to.
All right. Cowboys have done in division trades before. If that was going to happen, I would think the New York Giants would be probably the most likely trading partner, although that would surprise me. Scotty, what we need to start looking at in the couple of weeks leading up to the trade deadline is the teams like Ravens are in a bad way right now, although they probably are good enough that there's still a belief they could come rolling back. I would say the Browns, because the Browns have very talented pass rushers and they have a pretty good defense. The Jets didn't look good the other day on defense, but they do have a couple of talented pass rushers and they got a couple of tackles that are good. And by the way, let's not act like Kenny Clark has been a nice addition. Odigizua is a good player. Mosley's playing okay. He's getting to play. But you could use another defensive tackle. You could use another pass rusher. Right? The other day, Fowler, Sam Williams, James Houston. You got some really good performances from your pass rushers. J. Davian Clowney was brought in. He's been kind of whatever. He looks okay out there, but he's no great shakes. I think that's where you could help your team the most. And so I think what Jerry is saying there is you just look at your standings today and look at who's struggling and look at who's already 1-4. Jets are winless. Even look at your 2 and 3 teams, not the Chiefs, because the Chiefs are good enough that they're going to keep fighting. And we'll see where all this goes. But I think the Cowboys, I think Jerry is so proud of himself, first of all, for the Pickens trade. And he so wants the Micah trade to work. I don't know if it will or not, and we won't know for a good while. But he is, and I've been around him enough to know kind of when he's in this mode. He's in Trader Jerry mode. He loves the thought of being able to help his team. Now, what he'd really like to do, he only does like first round pick type trades in desperate times. That one season was getting away from them, Scotty, a couple of years ago. Well, that's now been 5-6 years ago. That one season was getting away from them, and they had fired. Jason was still coaching, and they had fired Paul Graham, or whoever was their offensive line coach. Paul Alexander, I think was his name. They fired him, and they were like 2 and 3 or 3 and 4, wherever. And at the deadline, he makes a deal for Amari Cooper. Amari might have been with the Raiders at the time. And this led to, Scotty, a famous or an infamous Mosley tweet. This led to a tweet I put out that ended up getting like 100 or 200,000 views that people liked. But the problem was people didn't know it was a joke. And I used to write these kind of funny headlines. I loved this guy Borowitz from the New Yorker. It was like Babylon Bee, if our audience knows some of that stuff. And I used to love their little headlines because they were very funny. And so I would say things like that about Jerry. And occasionally it would go viral because because Jerry's so weird and crazy, people would think I was being serious. And so in the aftermath of that Cooper trade, who was ever the Raiders coach that time, I made some joke about Jerry reaching out to the Raiders to find out if they had any cool plays that the Cowboys could run. And I forget exactly how I phrased it, but I mean, Yahoo and Bleacher Report and everybody started putting this as a headline and attributing that to Jerry. And I was like, oh no, they did not take it as a joke. Because I thought it was whatever way I phrased that, I thought it was outlandish enough that people would know it was a joke, and they didn't. The other one that happened to me was like on a draft day, and I had Jerry saying that he's asked the Cowboys scouting department to leave him alone during the draft to let him focus. And everybody that knows me and it covers the Cowboys, even Dez tweeted about that. They all knew I was joking, but that one took off, and Bleacher Report and everybody turned that into a headline. So, Scotty, I had to learn to watch it a little bit on some of my jokes and some of the way that stuff came across. All right, it is the Mosley Show. We have a lot going on today. We're going to get into some Campus Confidential, and when it's appropriate, we will play, or I'll at least talk about Sark. Steve Sarkisian has now joined Dabo, James Franklin, Brian Kelly. Elko even did it a little bit recently, not too bad, but he's joined these coaches. It's a bad look that when you start the season out as the number one team in the country, it's a bad look to start like, why are y'all beating up on us? Why do y'all do this to us? Why aren't you doing this to these other teams? Sark had a little bit of that pop up. We will talk about that moving forward. And we got a lot to get into you. Campus Confidential is next.